So you booked your first photo shoot. Congratulations, that is awesome. How you feeling? You nervous yet? In this video, I'm gonna be giving you 5 tips that I would tell my past self if I could go back in time to when I was about to do my first photo shoot. So let's get into it. Tip number 1 is to communicate. So throughout the entire shoot, make sure that you're giving directions. Don't silently take photos because that could be awkward for both of you guys, especially if the person is not used to getting their photos taken. They're gonna wonder, what should I do? So you should give them direction. Tell them where to look, tell them where to put their hands, and if you don't really know what to tell them in the moment, then give them positive feedback. Tell them beautiful, awesome, hold that pose if you want them to hold that pose. Just communicate with them and the whole photo shoot will go a lot smoother. Tip number 2 is to pay attention to your background, and your future self will totally thank yourself for this. And the reason is it will prevent you from having to Photoshop out random people or trash cans or a piece of garbage that is somehow in the background. Just pay attention to what is beyond your subject because it'll make for a cleaner shot. And if your shot is distracting in the background as it is, maybe lower your aperture then so that way you can have a blurry background and not see all that distracting stuff. Also, another thing to keep an eye out for in the background is to make sure that the horizon line isn't cutting them right through the head. Composition wise, that just looks a little sloppy. If it happens, it happens. It happens all the time, but just try to keep that in mind, the horizon line and everything else that's going on behind your subject. Tip number 3 is to have a list of poses ready to go. So I know that sometimes it can get really easy to get caught up in the moment when you're taking photos and totally pull a blank when it comes to what to tell your subject to do. And in order to avoid any awkward silences or awkward moments where you're trying to come up with pose ideas on the fly, it is good to have a list of poses ready to go for when you're in that moment. You can just whip out your phone and be like, oh, I would like to try this pose. And the thing I do usually going into photo shoots is I'll go to Pinterest and create a Pinterest board specifically for that shoot. And then if I have that awkward moment where I don't know what to do next, I'll whip out my phone and be like, hey, I also have some poses that I wanted to give a shot. Would you like to do this one? And go from there. It's also nice to sometimes have a list on your phone notes, and that works a lot for group situations because if you're having a group photo shoot, then you should know who's gonna be there and then come up with a list of different combinations that you're gonna take within that group. So for instance, if you have a mom and a dad and 3 kids, then you'll have shots with just the kids, shots with the mom with the kids, shots with the dad with the kids, and shots with the mom and the dad just together. Stuff like that. Tip number 4 is to consciously pay attention to your camera settings. Nerves are a crazy thing, and if you're nervous, you can totally forget everything that you know. And one setting in particular that used to always freaking get me was shutter speed. I'd be taking a photo and thinking, oh man, this looks great. And then when I got it on my computer later, I realized that my shutter speed was way too low and the photo that looked really great on my tiny little LCD screen was blurry and out of focus once I had it on my computer. So pay attention to your camera settings and take your time with it. Don't feel rushed. Just make sure that you have your settings right throughout the shoot. Before I get to my last tip, I would like to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you are new here and you like what you see and you want more photography content. Now on to tip 5. Tip number 5 is to pay attention to your camera orientation. So story time, the first photo shoot that I ever did, I took a bunch of photos, I felt really great, and then when I got home, I realized that all of them were in vertical orientation, which is great for Instagram, but not great for just every single photo shoot. So make sure you're paying attention to whether you're holding your camera in portrait or in landscape, and get a variety of both because not only will that make the client happy, but it'll also make you happy when you're uploading photos to your website or your portfolio. Being able to have a landscape portrait photo, you know what I'm trying to say, a landscape orientated photo for your website's banner is really useful. And that is my last tip for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and until next time, bye.